Hey guys, what is going on? I hope you all are doing well today. Elliot here, and welcome back to The Fragrance Well. So today's topic is going to be a pretty straightforward one. We're going to talk about classy fragrances. Fragrances that give off a sense of accomplishment, a sense of direction, a sense of focus, a sense of elegance, if you will. And this can come in a variety of styles, come in a variety of forms, and frankly, it can be very subjective from person to person, kind of depending on what you've been around that you would qualify as someone who has class, someone who has elegance, a bit of status even. But that's neither here nor there. The focus of today's video are scents that I consider classic, and I think most people would also agree with me. So yeah, today's video topic, we've got 10 classy fragrances. And hopefully I did a good job of presenting different styles of fragrances that I think have a sense of class to them. Before we get started, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel if you do like the content, and remember to hit that bell icon so you can be notified when I upload new videos. Let's get into it. Alright guys, so first up from the house of Hermes, we have got Terre de Hermes Parfum. Terre de Hermes Parfum. Oop, I was focused there for a second. Come on, if you know the Terre de Hermes line, you know this fragrance line, in general, is known for its classiness. Man, that's good. So this is primarily a vetiver-based fragrance, but also has a little bit of grapefruit on the top, giving it kind of a fruity citrus, more of a juicy citrus vibe to it. But it's not super strong in this fragrance. I think it's dialed back a lot in the Parfum version compared to the original Eau de Toilette that also has that orange vibe to it. This one still retains a little bit of that smokiness, a lot of that earthiness for sure, but it has even has a little bit of a vegetal vibe to it, but it has a lot of benzo in it, which is in the original, but it's definitely ramped up in this version, and it's just smoothed out. And the fragrance line in general has a classy taste to it, so this one is certainly no different. I know the Terre de Hermes DNA is not one that is for everybody, but I think most enthusiasts can definitely agree that this fragrance at least has some sense of classiness to it. It definitely comes across as if it's made for someone who's got a little bit of accomplishment, or at least is trying to accomplish great things. So once again, from the house of Hermes, this is Terre de Hermes Parfum. Alright guys, next up, coming from the house of Brioni, this is Brioni Eau de Parfum. Brioni Eau de Parfum. So if you know anything about the brand Brioni, they primarily make very nice menswear, and I mean gentleman menswear. So naturally you would think any fragrance they put out would be made with that in mind, and that is definitely the case with this one, as I imagine most of their stuff is. This is the only Brioni I've ever gotten my nose on, particularly of these newer ones that are coming out now. I do plan to pick up some more of them, but this fragrance here is primarily an ozonic, kind of fresh, violet leaf heavy, also musk heavy and ambroxan heavy, just classy, fresh fragrance. Gentleman's fragrance for sure. It definitely just smells like it would pair well with a man who is dressed casually and nice, up all the way up to wearing a nice suit. I mean, like I said, it would make sense that they would make fragrances that could definitely go with their clothing. And their clothing, like I said, is elegant, classic gentleman, very high quality, very expensive. Thankfully, we can get the fragrances for a much better price than you can probably find their clothes for. All that being said, I think this is a great classy scent. From the house of Brioni, once again, this is Brioni Eau de Parfum. Alright, next up, coming from the house of Amouage, this is Reflection Man. Amouage's Reflection Man. Pretty easy choice in my mind. If you know it, you know it well. This is primarily a white floral, spicy and sweet fragrance. Has some aromatic touches to it as well. Has a little bit of an orange tinge to it. There's some bitter orange leaf in here, or at least there's a note of bitter orange leaf. Great fragrance for the office setting. Great fragrance for a gentleman. Just a fragrance that definitely represents what I would consider a classy fragrance. Many definitely consider this to be one of the easiest, if not the easiest, fragrances to wear from the house of Amouage, but that definitely does not take away from the quality and the class that this fragrance represents. So once again, from the house of Amouage, this is Reflection Man. Alright, since I've got two from the house of Amouage, might as well do the second one. This is Jubilation 25. Amouage Jubilation 25. Now, as I stated earlier in the video, I did want to kind of present different styles of fragrances that I think have a classiness to them. This one is definitely different from what I've talked about so far. This is a somewhat fruity, but primarily kind of a dry, smoky, incensey fragrance. It's not a very rich incense. It's more like I said, it's kind of dry, kind of almost like catching fumes in the air when the fires have gone out from incense burning, but they're still hot and giving off some smoke. That's kind of how I think about this fragrance. There's also spicy notes, there's some honey accords, there's some floral accords as well. Very classy fragrance. One that you would think is, could be made for royalty, if you will. And I think it is a great addition to this list. Now, I understand this fragrance has been reformulated and it's not as strong as it used to be. I do not care. That has nothing to do with the topic we're talking about today. Do not come in my comments talking about it doesn't perform, therefore it doesn't deserve to be on the list. This isn't about performance. It's about how the fragrance smells and what kind of attitude it gives off, which is a classy one. So it's going to be on this list. So once again, from the house of Amouage, this is Jubilation 25. All right, next up, coming from the house of Prada, we have got Prada L'Homme. Prada L'Homme. Another one, I think for most, this would be an easy addition to a list like this. So this one here is a powdery and sweet floral fragrance, primarily coming from a note of iris. The iris in this is more fresh than it is creamy or thick or makeup-y. Definitely a fresher version of iris, and also has some ambery sweetness to it to give it a little bit more of an appeal. In general, I kind of think of this fragrance as smelling like a very, very high quality hand soap. That is not a knock on it. I think it just smells amazing, and that's just the picture that comes into my mind. Definitely a classy fragrance for sure. So once again, from the house of Prada, this is Prada L'Homme. All right, moving on. So the next one's coming from the house of Dior. This is Dior Homme Parfum. Dior Homme Parfum. Now, let's just talk about the Dior line real quick. The Dior line in general could go on this list. And I'm talking about the Dior Homme Original, Intense, this one, and even the newer 2020 version, and even the sports flankers. Probably all of them with the exception of Dior Homme Cologne. I wouldn't really consider that a classy scent, but pretty much the entire line definitely is a classy fragrance line. This one is no different. You got rich makeup-y iris in this one instead of fresh iris. Very rich, very sweet, but it is combined with some very dark and woody leatheriness. The composition is masterful in my opinion, but as I stated, I think all of the Dior Homme fragrances can be represented on this list. I just chose to go with this one because I, like many, would probably consider this to be the best one. So once again, from the house of Dior, we've got Dior Homme Parfum. All right, next up, coming from the house of Carolina Herrera, we've got CH Passion, CH Men Passion, from the house of Carolina Herrera. So first of all, it's considered an iris fragrance, but I would actually call it more of a woody fragrance. There is iris notes in here, I do pick it up, but I experience the woods in this fragrance much more than I experience the iris. There's also some sugary kind of sweetness to it, a touch of smokiness to it, and there's quite a bit of a resinous nature to it as well. There's a lot of myrrh in this. I really can pick up the myrrh in this fragrance. The fragrance in and of itself kind of comes off as more of an evening wear fragrance, but because of the way everything is compiled in this stuff, it definitely exudes a sense of class to it. I had this as the best designer release kind of earlier in the year when it came out, but obviously a lot has come out since then. It's definitely been dethroned from that title, but I still think it is one of the better releases from the year. Definitely great, classy fragrance, particularly for an evening occasion, in my opinion. So once again, from the house of Carolina Herrera, this is CH Passion. All right, guys, next up's coming from the house of Valentino. This is Valentino Uomo Intense. Valentino Uomo Intense. So if you know anything about this fragrance as well as its predecessor, just Uomo, you would know that this is basically Valentino's take on a Dior Homme style fragrance. Now, you may think like, well, is it just a clone of Dior Homme if you're not familiar with it? No, they're not. They definitely did their own thing with it. So compared to this one be more compared to like Dior Homme Intense and Dior Homme Parfum. Compared to those, This one has a little bit of a spiciness that those don't have, and compared to Parfum, a lot more sweetness. The fragrance itself is not necessarily sweet, but it has quite a bit of sweetness to it. But all that being said, if the Dior Homme line has classiness to it, why wouldn't this? And it certainly does. Great fragrance to give off a sense of elegance, if you will. Definitely a great take on that Dior Homme DNA, but it does stand on its own in my opinion. Once again, from the house of Valentino, we've got Uomo Intense. Next up, coming from the house of Amaroud, this is Lunar Vetiver. Amaroud Lunar Vetiver. So, this fragrance here is a vetiver scent, obviously, as the name would imply, but it is a very strong vetiver scent. Frankly, in my opinion, for those who may not be fans of vetiver, this is going to be much more difficult to pull off than compared to a Terre d'Hermes. At least to me it is. But this one here features quite a bit of spiciness to it and also has a lot of aromatics. There's quite a bit of pimento, notes like pimento in here. There's a lot of sage notes. You definitely can pick up on that pretty much right away, but it does have some sweet accords balancing it out as well. One thing's for sure, I think any vetiver fragrance that kind of sits in this caliber of being very strong and having a lot of strong supporting notes, to me at least, they automatically exude a sense of class. They automatically come off as very elegant fragrances made for gentlemen who are giving off a certain vibe, if you will. Probably dressed more business casual, if not wearing a suit. Just to put it out there, if you are a fan of stronger vetiver fragrances, I do think this is one that is definitely worth checking out, but it is a classy fragrance in general, so that's why I made the list. Once again, from the house of Amaroud, this is Lunar Vetiver. Alright guys, last up on the list, from the house of Arabian Oud, we've got Arabian Night. Arabian Oud, Arabian Night. So I've had this fragrance featured on quite a few lists on the channel. I might have even talked about it in a classiness sense before, but that's because the fragrance is definitely a classy fragrance. So this one here is a rose fragrance primarily, supported with some very nice spicy accords and has quite a bit of sweetness to it as well. Opens up with this beautiful lemongrass accord. I cannot get enough of it. It smells fantastic. You could think of this fragrance as a great office fragrance. It's a great signature scent in my opinion, but it definitely just exudes this cloud of classiness to it and also even a little bit of comfort with it. Arabian Night has a lot of fragrances. I would definitely say that this one is going to fall into that, let's just call it easier to wear category, where it may be a little bit more of a safer choice for someone who's new to the house to kind of start off with. But with all that being said, that does not take away from what is the awesome juice that is in this fragrance. So once again, from the house of Arabian Oud, this is Arabian Night. Alright guys, that was the video. That was 10 fragrances that I consider to have a sense of class to them. 10 classy fragrances. Let me know down in the comments below, what's one fragrance you like to wear when you want to come off as a classy person. Thank you guys for watching all the way into the end. Remember to be well and smell well, and I will see you in the next episode of The Fragrance Well. Have a good one.